Welcome everyone. Ciao Luca. Today we
Ciao.
are touching one of the, let's say, most heard topic and one of the most important topic that we hear very, very frequently when we speak about AI. So that's the cybersecurity. And I'm very glad to have you today with your 30 years of experience of cybersecurity. And I want to start with a few questions about this very interesting topic. And I would like to start with something related to the threats. When it comes to the cybersecurity, of course, people start thinking, okay, how should I avoid threats? How should I, let's say, protect myself, my company from the threats? So the very first question that I would like to ask you, Luca, is what are emerging AI-related cybersecurity threats should pharma company be most concerned about in 2025? We are approaching the new year. So, what, in your experience?
Yes. So thank you, Manuel, and thanks for the question. So, if I were managing the cybersecurity of a pharma company, and I'd be concerned with the threats to my AI models. I think that the first threats I would be putting on the radar would be data poisoning. AI is about data. So manipulating data sets used for training AI models could potentially alter research outcomes or patient care recommendations. So that would be one, data poisoning. I would be also concerned about model inversion attacks for like privacy reasons, because attackers can reverse engineer models to extract sensitive data, such as patient information or IP, proprietary research. For similar reasons, I would be concerned about model theft attacks. If you as a pharma company, you are creating your own models or fine tuning them, you're spending a significant amount of money and resources doing that. Competitors or malicious actors could steal your AI models with a comparatively much less resource intensive method, and that could lead to intellectual property loss and, of course, compromised research. And as a last threat, I would add something that is like common to all companies, which is GenAI for phishing. Now, malicious actors can send highly personalized phishing emails, maybe with targeting research areas, research data, clinical trials, or again, intellectual property. I would be on the lookout for those.
Thank you very much, Luca. This is something that sounds very interesting and something that also, sounds also, let's say, different, from the past techniques that we use to protect our data. In the past, I remember, years ago, we said, okay, we have to protect our, let's say, data from a cyber attack, from hackers, human hackers, and so on. So, I would like to ask you to focus a little bit more, let's say, on the how. No? So how has this, let's say, introduction of the Gen AI changed the cybersecurity landscape, or especially for pharma companies that are, let's say, dealing with a lot of sensitive information with healthcare providers, with patients, and so on. So in the past, let's say we were used to work with antivirus, so we were used to work with this, let's say, standard thing. So and especially for those that are not expert in this thing. So what are the main differences? What are the things that are changing, considering that now AI is also an instrument, let's say, in the hands of those who could have malicious aims?
Yes, exactly. So I I normally say AI has 3 dimensions in cybersecurity. So there is the AI that is helping defenders, and so your cybersecurity team can use AI methods and tools in order to be more efficient at defending the company, at defending the data. The second dimension is AI helping cyber criminals, and there we are having more sophisticated phishing attacks. Again, where emails are more convincing. We are having AI being used, generative AI being used for malware generation, with, and I mean the automated creation of customized malware that can evade traditional detection mechanisms, but also your specific detections. And of course, we could also have, and we've seen that some help towards social engineering tactics, deepfakes, audio deepfakes. They are real, they are happening, they are targeting large companies. In those attacks, malicious actors are impersonating high-ranking executives at companies,
Hmm.
and they are asking for information, or for the release of information, for the release of funds, release of documents, these kind of things.
That's
So
amazing. Like receiving an email from my CEO with a voicemail saying, "Okay, I need this information right now. Send it to me." Yeah, that's amazing.
yes, it could come also from the mobile number of your CEO, because
Wow.
spoofing a number isn't really that difficult. It can be done. So if you are receiving a phone call, a deep fake phone call, they can be real time too. So they
Wow.
don't need to be messages anymore. And you are chatting with that
Hmm.
executive, and already as you see that he or she is calling from their mobile phone, you already assume it's them. And
Yeah,
when you hear their voice, like, you lower any defense. And if
definitely.
they're asking you to send that specific document to a specific email address, maybe with a domain name that was registered to look like a company domain name or a partner domain name, you would tend to do it. So
Hmm.
this is how deepfake, like social engineering, works. But
That's
again, this is the second dimension. AI
yeah.
helping attackers. The third dimension is AI itself being the object of an attack. And I already talked about it earlier a little bit. They can attack your AI by stealing the model, by poisoning the data, by evading its classification, and in other ways that traditional cybersecurity software really cannot catch.
Wow. That's on one side very exciting, on the other side a little bit scaring. So uh that's yeah, that's very, very impressive. And that's something that also leads me to another question. Let's say I like also to see the glass, let's say, half full. And when it comes to cybersecurity, people is always thinking, okay, this is something that it is about just about maybe avoiding threats, you know. And that's of course something really important by itself. But when it comes to cybersecurity, are there also opportunities that cybersecurity enabling fully, let's say, working cybersecurity environment could enable? You know, are there some, let's say, positive opportunity that cybersecurity can bring to the company on top of avoiding threats? Let's say. I'm just wondering this.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and by the way, avoiding threats is a very active engagement. So
Yeah.
it's not passive. You need to be on the lookout in order
Mhm.
to avoid threats. So yes, cybersecurity, it goes without saying, it's a fundamental part of a company and keeping the company safe, and especially if you're dealing with highly sensitive data like patient data and intellectual property that is valued millions, then obviously you need to take a very active stance in cybersecurity. As said earlier, AI can help cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is an industry that has a manpower shortage that is quite critical. I've seen some data in the past where in Europe, at least, 1 in 2 job postings go like unfilled. So companies 50% of the times aren't able to hire someone for a cybersecurity role. And 3/4 of the people who work in cybersecurity in European companies, they don't really have the necessary certifications. Which is quite logical. If you have problems in filling the roles, then the next best thing is to kind of promote someone from your company to fill that role. But then, of course, you have to educate them.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. I mean, I didn't know that there was this gap, let's say, in terms of also human resources.
And AI is helping there. So because of this gap, AI could come and lift some weight away from the shoulders of those people.
Yeah. Okay. So, Luca, you already mentioned one of the biggest challenge around cybersecurity, that it is related to finding the right people. So, what are the other challenges that you envision? I mean, in the path of the pharma companies that wants to, and of course will have to, enable a cybersecurity approach, AI related. So, what are the major challenges that the pharma company have to be prepared for?
So the challenge, of course, is that you have always you are living in an adversarial environment. There is always a competitor or malicious actor trying to steal data from you. You need to be aware of that, and I bet all pharma companies are already aware of that. Now, considering that pharma companies probably have the same issues in recruiting cybersecurity roles, I would suggest to implement AI into their cybersecurity as soon as possible, which means to get AI people working together with cybersecurity people. And in the meantime, but this doesn't have to be temporary, but I will start immediately in like implement some safeguards in their systems in order to protect more actively their data. If pharma companies aren't already doing so, I would check that there is encryption practically everywhere, both at rest and in transit of the data, that there is a good and enforced access control. There needs to be a strict role-based access to limit data exposure. Because again, AI is made of data, and bad actors are targeting the data. So access control is one of the prime categories to safeguard. I would, if you are implementing AI models, I would regularly audit and test those models for vulnerabilities, that what's called the red teaming, and maybe start working on the robustness of AI models. There are several techniques. One of them is to integrate adversarial examples within the data that you are using to train your model. This tends to make the model more robust against adversarial threats.
Yeah, that's very good. That's very good. And a lot of pharma companies, let's say, are working a lot on their CRM. So the CRM plays an important role into their commercial, marketing, sales operations. And within the CRMs, of course, there are a lot of super sensitive data, both from a customer perspective, but also company confidential information. And marketing and sales commercial automation, AI enhanced, is, of course, going into the direction of integrating with the CRM. So from a cybersecurity standpoint, how companies can play safe there? How can do, let's say, the right step in order to have, in order to have the possibility to take the opportunity of embrace marketing automation, but at the same time be fully safe. How is it possible, if it is possible?
Well, it's always a trade-off. Competitors and malicious actors would love to have access to your CRM. And insider threat is normally one way they try to get in. So I'm talking about either disgruntled employees that maybe take the data with them, or I'm thinking about compromised employees' assets, computers, so that whenever the employee is accessing the CRM, the bad actors are accessing it too. So in addition to everything I said earlier, so data encryption, access control, I would add a couple of more things. First of all, I would do some anonymization. I would anonymize data in the CRM whenever possible, because sometimes for sales or marketing purposes, you don't need to have, the complete patient data, but maybe you have access to that from the CRM. So I would add some layers of anonymization in order to compartmentalize like the information on a need-to-know basis. And I would also work a lot on adding sensitive and granular monitoring and alert. So I would set up continuous monitoring and automated alerts for unauthorized data access or even suspicious behavior. Because that's
Nice one.
if you are normally using the CRM by accessing 10 data points or 100 data points per day, if an employee suddenly accesses 10,000 data points in a week or in a couple of days, then that's a suspicious behavior. And maybe someone wants to be alerted of that.
That's very interesting, intriguing. Actually, I didn't thought about it, but yeah, thank you. And when we are thinking about CRM, of course, I cannot avoid thinking about GDPR, HIPAA, all these kind of things. And I'm thinking about the GDPR. It doesn't even mention AI, so that's something that is on one side interesting. But of course, when it comes to AI, you cannot say it doesn't mention AI, so we skip it. So what I mean is when it comes to the cybersecurity, the GDPR basically is playing an important role. So in a nutshell, it's saying you have to protect the data. But when when we have, let's say, when we are into the situation that AI is entering the game, how is changing the scenario of being compliant with such regulation, with GDPR, HIPAA, and so on? How can company, let's say, use AI and remain compliant with GDPR and similar regulations?
Yes. So you're right. GDPR doesn't specifically mention AI. It mentions automated decision making. But when speaking with the EU officials, they are seeing the GDPR, the AI Act, and other legislation as working together. But of course, there are some, I would say, typical aspects of AI that don't really fit in well with what GDPR says, or also HIPAA. For example, the data minimization part.
Hmm.
They mention the fact that they enforce the fact that um, you need to use as little data as possible.
And with AI
Uh,
is interesting.
yes, because you need to ensure that as a company, that your AI models only process the minimum amount of data that is
Hmm.
needed. But it's a challenge to understand what that minimum amount is, because one of the beautiful parts of AI is that it can find correlations that mean something, also in areas or features that you didn't consider earlier.
Hmm.
So if you had limited data ingestion only to the areas that you considered in order to minimize it, the data amount, you would have missed those correlations that are instead interesting for you. But there isn't only that, there is also, well, the data transparency.
Hmm.
GDPR wants or demands the right to an explanation, and there is difficulty in explaining AI model decisions, especially if you're using deep learning neural network. And of course, there are challenges of data transfers, cross-border data flow restrictions. They complicate the training and deployment of global AI systems. You can maybe have a workaround in federated learning. And a lot of pharma companies and healthcare providers are experimenting with that. Finally, I would say that pharma companies also have additional challenges when they are victims of data breaches. Because data breaches can expose not just patient records, but also insights generated from that data. And that's an additional problem when it comes to regulations.
Yeah, I mean, Luca, I'm really impressed. Let's say, not surprised because I mean I know you, so I was let's say expecting such level of the conversation. But I really thank you. I just have one last question
Yes.
before we close. So, for those who will see this video and of course want to know more about cybersecurity and so on. So I know you are quite active also on LinkedIn and so on. But how can they, let's say, follow you, get more uh, content from your side? I mean, where they can find more information? I don't know if.
Yes, thank you. I regularly post on LinkedIn. I started a new blog recently. A lot of my awareness building has been in Italian, because one of my goals is to educate our our country and people that are working in it and taking decisions every day. But I recently started, since AI security is a much more global concern, and I see that even CISOs and security like minded people and people who work in security don't really always have the time to study it. So I started a new blog in English this time,
Great.
and it has a kind of sarcastic tone, but after 30 years and more of cybersecurity, maybe I can allow myself
I really like it.
being sassy a bit. I look at the AI problems, I comment them. It's called "Are We Safe Yet?"
Nice.
And then you can find it on arewesafeyet.com. And every week I try to post something new about how AI is being a thorn in the side of security.
Very good. Very good. Luca, thank you very much. And let's stay in touch and looking forward to the next webinar.
Yes, same here. Thanks a lot, Manuel. It's been a pleasure.
Mine. Bye.
Bye.